a woman who is feeling like you're unseen, unheard, unappreciated, and even though you're literally at the top of your game in your business, maybe it is in a financial realm or in marketing somewhere, and you have it all. You're so successful, but by everyone else's terms, you are nailing it at life. Only you are showing up every day feeling dead inside when you show up to work. Does any of that translate for you? Have you been in this place? And maybe it's that you have your own business and your business now feels that way. Been there, right? Where I'm showing up to my business and it doesn't even feel like something that's an extension of my soul anymore. And I just know that I'm kind of being asked to move outside of the realm I'm in and change lanes into something that's different. And if any of that resonates for you, then hi, my name is Jen. I'm the founder and owner of Laughing Lotus Wellness. I'm a transformational purpose coach and expert. And what I do is work with really powerful, high achieving women to get clear about their purpose, to help them align more fully on that path into purpose again, where at one point maybe they were really vibing, getting this, beautiful financial reward for what they did. And that sort of has ceased. It's like it hit its, like high level capacity. And maybe they're being blocked by a million things and they're so frustrated and they're tired, right? They kind of want to give up and throw the towel in, but they know that they've got something to do. And so what we do is we work together to get really clear about where you are, where you want to go, and how we're going to help you get there, utilizing my signature program that I help women kind of dive into all these areas to reconnect purpose and success once again. So that's really what I do. And today we're going to talk about where the wild things are. Okay. And so I love this conversation. This is really tapping into the idea about our should ideas, which we've talked a little bit already about. We're not going to spend, a ton of time there, but I do want to kind of touch on that as we talk today in a broader stroke way than I probably have thus far. We've done a couple of exercises. If you've been following the blogs, we've done some meditation. So we've done some visualizations. So today we're going to have kind of like that come to Jesus conversation, which is really kind of my hallmark. So let's just be real. So after 20 years of providing psychotherapy to people, one of the things that I definitely know is true for people is that we walk around with these beliefs and blocks inside of us, which is one of the first layers of work I really go in and do with women. Okay. It's super important that women go in, and one of the very first things we do as a coaching process is start to really tap into those blocks that are going to prevent you from moving outside of your space that you really want to be in. And so today we're going to talk about, right, where the wild things are. And you all are familiar with the childhood book. Yeah. Okay. Everybody's like read it, seen it, heard of it at some point. Maybe you tried watching the movie with your kid like I did. My kid was like, I'm having none of it. She was like, that shit's scary. Just saying. Okay. So we never did even watch the entire movie because my kid got freaked out. So that was just back in the day, right? That's been a minute. So, but I want to talk about the story of Max, right? And the main character of this book is Max, and Max gets in trouble with his mom for doing something disrespectful. But let's just say he was being a little saucy. Maybe it wasn't so disrespectful, but he kind of goes to his room and he's gonna have to go to bed without dinner, and he's all pissed off, and he transforms into this place where he becomes the wild thing. And in this jungle-like format, he meets all these other monsters. And even there, he intimidates the monsters into following him and making him the kind of monster king. Well, after a minute, he's like, this isn't really what I wanted either. So this kind of sucks. You just wait for the symbolism. Are you following me here, right? This metaphor is like off the charts. Okay. So I put this down as the topic before I even had this all planned out in my brain, but it worked out magnificently. So after a minute, he gets homesick and he goes, shit, I don't want to be here anymore. This isn't working for me. I want to go back home. Well, then the monsters get pissed off because they're like, wait a minute. You came in here. You were doing the game. You were doing the things. You were following the rules. What do you mean you're getting out of here? Right? Max goes back home, has his dinner. All is well. Okay. So the moral of the story ends up with a hot dinner. Okay. Kind of weird story. But anyway, okay. So let's just back up a sec. Okay. So what I want us to think about is I hear very commonly in my office with my coaching clients, this idea of the shoulds. And it's what it really does. It is a beautiful amplification. This whole story of where the wild things are, right? The notion is that you are going into a space of following the conditioning you've been given. So that's kind of what Max does. He goes into this wild space. He's all pissed off. He's surrounded by other shoulds, right? And so he's like in this bad space. But the conditioning is, I just give over to this, right? So now he's like the master of the realm of being conditioned to do this wild thing behavior, right? And he's living with the monsters, which are like the shoulds that we've all got, the shoulds, can't, have to's. You get what I'm saying, right? So this whole idea in our minds that we have about how we're supposed to show up to things in our lives, okay? And then he breaks free of that and comes home and is rewarded. Okay. So that's really what I want us to think about, is that it's going to be really uncomfortable. I would even say wildly unpopular. So this week in my membership, I was talking about being wildly unpopular with some of my choices this week, that I did a couple of things in my life that were really challenging and uncomfortable. And so I had to send out some emails that make me distinctly uncomfortable. But that was me practicing, and I want you to draw this conclusion, right? This is where I'm going, is practicing working against the ideas that we've got. So the block is that, like, I should, responsible women should stay where they are. Responsible people do the right? I had all these ideas. And so it was really tough for me to formulate and then send out these emails that were really uncomfortable. And they had a solution that I didn't know where they were going to go. The only thing that I knew is that it felt more in alignment for me to make these decisions, right? And so I just wanted to toss that out there, that this is the work that I'm doing. And what the brilliance is, what the wild things are in your journey are the moments where you're like, I'm doing this regardless, and taking distinctive, bold action in the face of it. So we've done like a visualization. We were whacking through, like the big brushes. We were walking through the jungle in our wild format, right? Love that, love that, love that. This is the same idea, only it's really action. And so even though I was distinctly uncomfortable, I sent those emails. I had those conversations. And that's what I'm going to really be talking to you about. Beautiful example, one of my coaching clients this week actually resigned, and she was in a high level position. She is in finance. She's an enigma because there's less women in finance, which is a shame. But at very high level, super, super talented. So good at her job. And so had this conversation, didn't feel seen, didn't feel heard, didn't feel validated for what she brings, asked about a promotion, and the response she got was pretty weak. And it was like, well, but I don't know if you have enough experience in this thing. She's like, actually, this is all the experience I have in that thing. And so she left, and she was really unsatisfied. And even though she was actually already thinking about leaving at some point, this was sort of the camel that broke this is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? She was here. She knew her worth. She knew what she brought to the table, could see that she deserved at least a shot at this promotion. And her boss was like, sorry. So she sat on it for the day, and she called back at the end of the day and said, I resign. And he's sputtering and like what? I have no, what are we this unhappy, and like how this happened, and right. So she's like, this isn't an alignment for me. I see my value differently than you do. I see my vision and where I'm going is different something that you see for me in my journey. And I have to honor that. And what I really love about what she did, there's so many things. One, big, bold action, right? She had to for sure get in that mind space of those places that block her, that like, I should just stay. I should just do my job. I should just take whatever I can get. She had to really work her way through that to have that really tough conversation. Better yet, building on this beautiful cake that she layered, she handled it with so much grace. So even in this conversation, she was so authentic and so valid and so real about where she was sitting and what her experience was like. And she wanted him to be educated. Like, this is my experience. This is what it feels like sitting across the table from you when you're telling me this is as high as I'm going to get to go right now. And that's not enough for me. And he was very respectful, very disappointed because he didn't want her to leave, but they had this really powerful, engaging conversation about it. And even though she's leaving, that's the solution. She was in a place to make brave and bold action, which is what really gets me fired up for her. Because when I see women in those places, I know they're really doing the work, right? That's the stuff that I love. Now, every woman I work with is not going to make that kind of decision. Okay. This is her decision. And so guess what she heard? Right. I love this because this is the story. This is exactly what I work with. So what did she hear? What do you mean you're leaving? You should have another job lined up. What are you going to do after this? And she's like, I'm going to take some time is what I'm going to do after this. You should definitely consider doing something different. You should definitely, one person said to her, so you got pissed and then you left? Like, she had a tantrum. And she was like, no, that's not exactly what happened. I'm not 3. I've been dealing with this my entire career and I'm freaking tired of it. And I know that I'm being called to do something different. So I loved watching and witnessing her journey and her grace and how she stepped into that space of being really ready to go, I'm done with this. I am done feeling unseen, unheard, invalidated. I'm done feeling like I've hit the top of my game, even though I know I'm made for so much more. Been there, done that. Super grateful for all the journey. She's so filled with gratitude, like, and was so graceful, even though she could have come to a place in that conversation with this boss and been really pissed, right? I mean, like, I was mad for her. I'm not sure that helps, but I was mad for her. And so I can see in my coaching clients when they come in and they're like, I'm tapped out in this. I'm tapped out in this industry. I'm exhausted by feeling like I'm pigeonholed. I know that I have more to do and I just can't get through it. So think of all of the layers of shoulds that she had to fight through, right? We've done some of her block removal already. So she's like in a space where she can now fully with clarity kind of step in and go, this isn't for me. This is not for me. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to discuss it, which she did first. And then she was like, okay, cool. Peace out. Peace out. And so, like I said, that's not going to be every single one of my clients. Some of my clients are going to come in and they're going to have a gentler lane change, right? But I really love her story because it's so profoundly stepping into the ring, if you will, with those shoulds like Max does in that where the wild things are. She stepped into that space. She had heard all the stories. And so, and she, by the way, does have great support too. So everybody wasn't, a naysayer about her decision, but got lots of flack. And this is what we'll go through sometimes. We're going to go through flack when people don't get our story, but it's not their story to understand. And so one of the things that I really want you to do is, right, Max goes in and with all of these monsters, he stands his ground and becomes the king. And that's really what I want for my women, is to become the queens of these shoulds, to understand that that's conditioning and training. It's both external and internal, that we've got both parts coming in at us. And so it's a double whammy. And so we're really going to have to sit in that and duke it out to make the decisions that feel really in full alignment for us, right? And so this is her journey. And now she's like totally ready to complete this phase of her life, this chapter, step into a whole new one. She's got some ideas. We're talking about that, where she's going to go and land. But for right now, she's just going to spend some time taking care of herself and healing herself so that she can have her vision begin to build and renew and step into the next phase of her life. That is so profound. I mean, at the very, very base of what I wanted to create in my coaching, like, this is such a beautiful story of that. And watching a woman juggle those blocks, those old stories, and even the people that are in the ring with her, supposedly, that are like, but wait, what do you mean you're leaving? What do you mean you're changing? What do you mean you're doing this, right? And there's kind of some flack for it. There's kind of some pushback. And so she lovingly had to say, like, nope, that's not what this is. And yep, I hear your concerns and I think I'm going to be okay. And I can probably find another job anytime if I really need one. Like, she's just navigating it like a champ. And with that being said, I want to be fair. I'm going to make sure I got all my notes here. Let me be fair when I say this. Of course, my iPad went off with my notes and now it's gone. Okay. So what I think is really challenging is this. I talk about it with so much pride and so much joy for her because I'm witnessing her transformation. I want you to know that's not without struggle, that her feeling in this big space of transformation also comes with all the feels. So I want to be clear in this work that I think that one of the things that can happen is you can see and meet really strong women and they can make things look really easy. Truly, right? And I've had people say this to me in my lifetime too, is like, you just make things look easy, or you're a therapist for a gazillion years, so this must be easy for you. And I'm like, it still sucks. So this week when I made some wildly unpopular decisions in my life, that still sucks. I don't enjoy it. My client who's working her ass off right now, it doesn't mean that she enjoyed all the layers of that work that she did, the step that she took. She is so excited for herself. Yes. She is proud of herself. Yes. And it is not without feels. It's not without tears. It's not with overwhelm. It's so we want to be really honest. And I'm so authentic about that piece of the journey. And yesterday, a part of what we did was we just let her sit in that. We just honored the feels that are showing up. And it was like, yep, I totally understand why you would feel that way. I totally get it. And we identified the great spots of support and beauty that are around her, that are like, right, holding this space for this beautiful thing that's happening, this big transformation. But it's not without tears. It's not without stress and strain. It's not right. It's not a black and white thing. And so I always like being really real about that, the raw real, right? Like this is how we show up to these big transformations. Leaving my practice was really hard. The last day that I left there, I walked in early. I spent some time in each of the spaces, just really honestly saying goodbye. It was emotional. And so, well, the last day in the office that I was in for most of my career, I should say it that way, because we had transitioned offices, but I did spend a minute kind of going through and saying goodbye. So it wasn't that it was this black and white, all good, all ugly, right? I don't like that way of thinking about it because it so cuts off our humanity in it. And so, I mean, she's created incredible connections to people and she's had mentors and she's had, right? So this is she worked her ass off to get her really high end clients. Like, so she did all this stuff. She is also grieving. So there is right space for both. And we want to make room for that because I think when we talk about these decisions that people make when they're making big shifts in their lives and making big lane changes, it's like all going to be amazing, right? So if you imagine the butterfly and its chrysalis, I mean, it's working, it's stretching its elbows and its little legs and its wings, and it's doing all this internal work that everybody isn't necessarily going to see. And it comes out looking beautiful. It's like, da-da, right? Like this magic trick, like out of the magic hat. That's not what it's like. It's so much internal work and process to sit with the blocks, the stories, the flack, the people, writing the uncomfortable resignation letter, sending the uncomfortable letter that you know somebody's not going to want to receive. It's hard. And so I want to make space for that as well. And really, and here's why I'm saying it. I want to honor her. I want to honor when women are stepping into those places. And even though it is distinctly uncomfortable, they're still being where the wild things are by moving against the shoulds. It's a behavioral, bold action statement of it's a doing. Okay. It's not just a thinking. It's not just a feeling. They're actually moving in direct opposition to the shoulds that they've got. You know, professional women in high paying jobs should stay where they are. Professional women who have blah, 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 have a gripe shouldn't say it. I mean, look at all the shoulds that she had to go through to get to the space where she could make this decision for herself. And that shit gets me hella excited and gets me up out of bed every day. So it's the stuff that I live for. And I respect the shit out of that. If you've been in a position where you've had to step into something distinctly uncomfortable and you know you're going to be wildly unpopular. That's what I said this week. I told my membership I'm going to be wildly unpopular this week, right? And I cracked a joke about it. I have to be I have to get comfortable with discomfort. I have to be willing to step into the space where I go, well, I'm going to be wildly unpopular this week. Okay. Because what I've learned is, like when Max goes into where the wild things are and he's dealing with all that conditioning and the ideas and the monsters that are the shoulds and right, we have to figure out how we want to be different than that. I can stay there. I can stay in the space where I'm following the rules and the guidelines and all the stuff that everyone set forward for me. Or I can make bold action to come out of that space and say, no, actually, you know what? This is greater in alignment for me and my purpose and what I meant to do here in this lifetime. That's a really brave and courageous action. It's not simple. It's not straightforward. And so I love being really authentic about that piece of this journey for women, because I think if I just sell what I'm doing, right? And I'm not trying to sell you, but if I sell it as this straight shot of gloriousness, right? It doesn't look and feel that way. They're going to have the feels. But bold action is stepping into a space where she trusted herself more than any of those monsters that are riding around with her, more than any of those blocks. It was like, Jen, the work that you and I are doing is helping prepare me so that I could make this transformation. I could make this lane change. And so that I just want to drop it in. This is where the wild things are. And where the wild things are is desperately, truly, and wholly in the space of you making decisions that move against your shoulds. Whatever they are, wherever they came from, external, internal, both, it doesn't matter. It's that we're trusting that. So even in the face of opposition, even when someone comes in and says, but you're supposed to, but I can't believe you, why would you, when someone's questioning us, we're like, I got this. I got this. I don't love every single minute of it. I'm not saying I don't have feels about it, but I got this. And that's so powerful. And so to me, like I said, this is the work that I love to do. And this is where I get really excited, is witnessing the clients who are doing the work, showing up for themselves, battling those monsters. and then coming out ahead of the game, right? Leaving that ship behind to say, I got something bigger for my life to do right now. And really believing in themselves, listening to that inner knowing that's like riding around with them, that's been tapping on their door proverbially for like sometimes years. They're like, I just can't be in this same place anymore. It's not giving me life. It's not bringing me joy. When I ask them on a scale of 0 to 10 where their joy is in their work, very often it's like hard under 5, right? So if it's 0 is 0 at all and 10 is like ultimate joy for their work and their purpose, they're like a 3 and 4 usually, somewhere in that, like in that realm. That's terrible. Right. So we want to think about that. Like, how much joy are you getting when you get up to go to work and do this thing that you feel, or living into your purpose, whichever direction that is? It doesn't even have to be a career. That tends to be the women that I work with, but it can also look like something different, right? Maybe you get to volunteer and your volunteer job has stopped feeling as successful and joyful and engaging and lighting you up. So I just wanted to shed a little bit of light on this idea of Max's story and going in and using that symbolism of having to kind of duke out the monsters, which is what we're all doing in our minds, to really break free of these ideas, right? And to take charge of that wild part of who you are that actually really knows what is good for you, what feels best, what feels in greater alignment. And so when I hear my clients using that language, I get really excited because I'm like, this is the money. This is exactly where they were always meant to be going. And so kudos to my client. I want to like celebrate her, and I keep confidentiality. So I can't shout her out because that's not something that I want to do and call her out publicly. But I just wanted to share this beautiful story to symbolize, right, the same story of what Max goes through and that where the wild things are. It's just a perfect analogy of how we have to duke these things out and step into our own alignment. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've got questions, I would love, do you see yourself in this woman? I mean, like, has anybody ever been in a position like this where you feel like you're kind of tapped out? I would love to hear from you. Have you been there? Is this your experience? It doesn't have to be, with a male supervisor. I'm not talking gender or anything here, but have you been in that place where you've kind of tapped out and you don't feel seen, you don't feel validated, you don't feel heard, you are lacking freedom anymore, you're lacking that sense of liberation, and you know that you want something more, but you're not sure how to get there? Have you been there? But I also just want to honor that journey is work, and that it is so, and so it's so more complicated than I can even make it sound. Like, oh, we just do this and we lane change it, it sounds all lovely and fluffy. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there though, right? And I want to honor the work that goes into these women's journeys as they're working to rise on their path of purpose, because it is no joke. And so I just want to honor them as well. So I love my coaching clients so much and all the work that they're doing to really transpire and transcend into the next space that they're going to really go, where they really know that they feel like they belong. So I'm going to invite you. I have a free webinar. It is next Wednesday. And so it is, you can go to my website. It's laughinglotuswellness.com/webinar. If you would like to join us, we just need your email so we can send you the link. All you do is show up and hang out with us for an evening. It's going to be Uprise. It's all about wild alignment. Of course, this month's theme fits beautifully with what I'm going to be teaching you. We'll be doing a little meditation, a little bit of tapping, of course, some education, and of course, question and answer, because that's one of my favorites. So bring your questions on in, grab a friend, come and hang out with us. And so if you'd like to do that, again, that's free. It costs absolutely nothing. And really, webinar, class, whatever the hell you want to call it, whatever yanks your chain, that's what it is. And so it's free. It's done by me. It's free coaching, which is what I love to do. And so I hope you'll come and join me and learn a little something and talk about what wild alignment looks and feels like. And so if you want to come join us, just head over to laughinglotuswellness.com/webinar. Super easy to get signed up, and away we go. And so that's going to be next week. So we're like less than a week out, my friends. Get in with us. Come hang out with us for an evening. It's going to be super, super fun. I love, love, love these events. Love sharing space with women in these. Super fun and super informative. And also, you're going to always walk away with having some practice materials, because I love to have people actually have an experiential component to all of my classes, so that you can see the way that I combine the therapy and the healing modalities and all those things that I love to put together as a coach. So hopefully you're having a wildly interesting and engaging evening to support your alignment. So I would love to see you there. If that's of interest to you, that's awesome. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to direct message me, reach out anytime. I'm happy to answer questions, and I love that kind of thing. And so if today there was a part of this story that really resonated for you, I'd love to hear about that. If you've got a question about like wild alignment and what it looks like to take action that is in the face of those obstacles, I would love to talk about that. That's the stuff that I love to help women do. So I want to send you off with a beautiful Thursday. Thanks so much for joining and hanging out with me. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And I have jury duty, so I may or may not be here for the next 2 weeks. We're going to see. I will post something in advance if I'm not going to be able to be here, but we'll see. I'm hoping I don't have to go. Can I be really honest? Okay. But anyway, so I will let you know if I will not be here, but that may be happening. And so that may shake things up for lives for the next 2 weeks, but we're going to see what happens. And I will let you know one way or the other. So blessings, love, and light to all of you. This is Jen supporting you on your rise, on your path to purpose. Take care, everybody.